Scorpio, this is your week ahead astrology forecast from Astrology Motivation by Born Without Boundaries Tarot. Welcome, guys. My name is Michelle. What I'm going to go through in this video is the planetary aspects and transits for this week, over the course of this week. And this week goes from March 28th to April 3rd. I always got my little pad written down. And I'm going to discuss the major planetary aspects and transits that happen and how they interact with and impact your natal sun. Now, I don't know where your natal sun is, but you do. Or you can find out by going to, you could do it, any search engine you want. Go ahead, get in there and say free natal chart, free astrology natal chart. And you'll be able to run one. You'll just need your birth date, birth time, and your birth location. Now, if you don't have that information, that's okay, because I can give you estimates of dates. What I'm going to do is break it down for you guys. I divide it into 3 decans, or groups of 3 degrees. So, groups of 10 degrees. So 3 groups of 10 degrees. So if your natal sun is somewhere between 0 and 10 degrees of Scorpio, you are decan 1. If your natal sun is somewhere between 10 and 20 degrees Scorpio, you are decan 2. And if your natal sun is somewhere between 20 and 29 degrees of Scorpio, you are decan 3. So, what does that mean? Basically what that, in terms of dates, basically what that breaks down to, and this is a rough estimate, you have to check your natal chart, especially if you're on the cusp of one of these, decans. If you are an October Scorpio, most likely you are decan 1. If you were born, say, November 1st or 2nd to November 11th or 12th, see, there's rough edges because it doesn't necessarily always start and finish at the same time every year, so you do have to check your natal chart. But around there, you are decan 2. And if you were born after the 12th up to the 22nd of November, you are decan 3. Around there. Once again, those are estimates in terms of the dates. It's the degrees that are going to be the most specific. So go check out that information. Your natal sun's going to interact differently with the same planets, because there's almost 30 degrees between the beginning of Scorpio season and the end of Scorpio season, and that's a huge difference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start most broadly, which impacts everybody, and then I'm going to go into the things that impact all Scorpios, which is basically what Pluto and Mars are up to, and then I'm going to go into the decans and what is specifically and how it is impacting your natal suns. So I've gotten a lot of really interesting and intelligent comments that point out, even though I am technically a decan 1, because of where my birth date is located, because it could be closer, even though I'm technically a decan 2, because of where my birthday is located, you could actually be a decan 1. It's not about the birth date, it's about the degrees. So remember, the birth dates are very they're the most unreliable source. But also it behooves you to watch the whole video, because yes, you will still, depending on how strong the aspect is, you will still pick up on this stuff. So please do watch the entire video for the entire message. We're going to start with Pluto. Pluto has moved into Aquarius. It will eventually retrograde back into Capricorn, back into Aquarius, back into Capricorn, and then it'll take its long stint into Aquarius and won't retrograde anymore. So it'll take Pluto about a year and some months to settle into Aquarius permanently, but that's pretty much the energy that it is radiating right now. And it's pretty much the energy that it's working within right now. And I know a lot of you felt big changes last week, and that makes a lot of sense, because not only did Pluto transit into Aquarius, which was a huge change for everybody, but Mars transited on Saturday. Mars just transited into Cancer. So two huge changes as to your mentality and your modality. We're going to start with Pluto. Pluto is going to be square to the nodes for quite some time, and I'm telling you that that is huge for everybody, not even just Scorpios, but you guys will definitely feel it. This is a turning point. Say the North Node represents your life, this life, and the South Node represents the lives you've lived before, what you've carried into this life, which means usually things that you're familiar with, that you're comfortable with, that you know how to do, that you're talented with because you've had experience with them. These are the things that come most easily to you, whereas the North Node is the things that you may be struggling with because you're not familiar with it. It's what you have to learn in this lifetime. But their two things are not separate. You have to learn what you've carried in. You have to learn how to apply that to what you're being challenged with. So you need to have a sense of certainty and harmony with all your South Node stuff to really be able to apply yourself and see progress on all that North Node stuff. Because if you have a lot going on South Node, then you're not dealing with it, then the North Node is going to be all that more difficult. This is a sense of, think of it as a long path, right? And if you're constantly letting the South Node is basically all the baggage that you have on your back, carrying it from your past life, and if it's spilling all over the place and it's not being kept and it's broken down and you're not getting rid of the stuff that you don't need anymore, and it's basically your baggage is all over the place, then A, your journey is rougher, and B, how are you going to take on anything new and learn anything new that the North Node is, that walking toward the North Node is going to introduce you to? It's not. You have to be familiar with and settled in everything with your South Node first. So, and those things that you're not settled on, if you guys have a lot of conjunctions on the South Node, then those would be things that basically are gonna need to be addressed coming into this lifetime. So that's general, but because Pluto is square to the nodes, there is this sense of really, especially for you guys, adjusting, deciding, getting familiar, settling with all those South Node things so that you can feel confident in applying them to where you're headed in this life, in the life that you're headed toward, and who you want to be. You could also consider the South Node the stuff that you began in, the stuff that you had no choice in, right? The stuff from your childhood. Now the North Node is what you're choosing, but you have to accept that stuff from the South Node before you can practically apply it and make progress for that North Node. So this is the toggle point, really, that Pluto is affecting here. The sense of we are changing who we are. There's no more putting up or tolerating with unfinished crap from the South Node. That's done. That's going to be wrecked if you haven't gotten to it. Now we're moving over to what are you confident with? What are you competent in? Because you've got to start facing this stuff. This is like turning a corner, if you will. So I think it's very, very important. I wrote this down, as of Monday of next week, so toward the very end of this week, that would sort of be April 3rd, Mercury will enter Taurus, and suddenly Pluto will square Mercury. Toward the end of this week, Mercury will square Pluto. What does that mean for you guys? It could just mean that communication gets a little rough around the edges or gets kind of extreme, right? Having a lot of authority in your speech, but also maybe getting too aggressive when it comes to your speech or even your thought patterns and the conclusions that you're arriving at. It could also mean news that comes in that either ends things or opens things up. But either way, it'll challenge you because it's in a square. Squares are wonderful because if you face them, they release very positive and progressive energies. But if you try to avoid them, they will keep tugging you back and dragging you down. FYI. Now, we go to Mars. Mars, which will impact all of you since it is your traditional ruler, has just entered Cancer. And that's a completely different modality. And it could even mean that you guys are now going to be taking more action with regards to your family. Like you might be moving through your family, like working through your family, be inspired by, motivated by your family. It could even mean that you're taking more aggressive action when it comes to building a family, or getting yourself healthy in terms of your reproductive health. So the wonderful thing about Mars is in a wonderful position. It is trine to Saturn, which is really good news for you guys. It is trine to the South Node, and it's sextile to the North Node. This is fantastic energy because Pluto, based on Pluto's position. So it's like, hey, Pluto's like, get your shit together, cleaning it up, moving forward. But Mars, your other and more personal, closer ruling dignitary that probably impacts you on a more daily basis, is like, I'm in a trine to the South Node and Saturn. This is a grand water trine, which means I'm finding harmony with what I can do, with what I've built, and what I can do with what I've built. So that says that there's harmony being made with where you've come from. And then because of that, there's Mars is sextile to the North Node, opportunity to be taken now that you're comfortable with what you have and what you can do and what you understand, to move on to more challenging things. Opportunities are now opening you up. It's just like once you get harmonious with what you are and who you are and what you can do, the opportunities then start to flow. So that's a really nice counterbalance and sort of harmony. It's a real nice harmony to this square with the nodes that Pluto's creating, because Pluto's like, get your shit together, not really taking this anymore. But then there's a sense of, okay, maybe that's it's almost like a good sign to me, that over at least the course of this week, there will be a real ease with you being able to just feel good about what has happened, accept it, and open your mind to moving forward. So that's a good setup for you guys. Now, Mars is especially going to impact those of you that are Scorpio 1s. Scorpio 1s, like I said, are most likely October Scorpios. Especially those of you born at the very, very, very earliest part of Scorpio season, so you'd be Scorpio Libra cusps, because Mars has just entered Cancer. It's at 1 degree Cancer. So it is trine to those of you whose natal sun is at the very beginning of Scorpio season. This is harmony. This is harmony with all that harmony that Mars is experiencing. You are going to get the best of this. You are going to get the best of harmonizing your past with your future. Okay? And being able to take action on it, because that's what Mars does. Especially with your family, because Mars is in the house of Cancer right now, right? Your natal sun, Scorpio 1s, are square to Pluto. Since Pluto is in the very beginning of Aquarius, it is those of you who are in the very beginning of Aquarius season that are going to be most impacted by this square, this challenge to Pluto's challenge. So even though you're harmonious to Mars, you're probably taking the hit in the most extreme way. But that's good, because it's clear, indecisive, ruthless. You're not going to have a choice, but you are going to have the stamina, and you're going to have the inspiration to be able to do something. So you'll experience the most dynamic changes, but you'll be able to handle them, is what I'm saying. Your natal suns are trine to Saturn. That's a beautiful place to be. A trine to Saturn means there's harmony at work. There's harmony with rules and laws and obligations. There's harmony with authority figures. There is also harmony with Mars. Your natal suns are trine to Mars. Like I said, at the very earliest, but all of you are in a loose conjunction with Mars, especially those of you who are up, your natal suns are up to 5 degrees Scorpio. You will definitely be experiencing this trifecta of, okay, this is happening to me. I'm being challenged, but it's also like these solutions are coming to me in a really wonderful way. And because I have confidence in me, it's almost like the challenges are making you more aware of your capabilities. And that's how this week is going to impact you. It's like you don't know what you're capable of until the challenges come up, and then you're like, oh damn. Oh, so it's a way for you to get even more appreciative toward what you can do and more competent in what you can do. Scorpio 2s. So that's those of you who are born in the very beginning of November. You guys are really interesting. You have a very interesting thing because it's very polarized. Most planets are at the very beginning or very end of something. But not Venus and Uranus. Venus and Uranus are in the very middle of Taurus. And that means you guys are in direct opposition to them. Now, an opposition has great impact on your life, but in a way that you can't control or really foresee. So it's kind of could sideswipe you. It's almost a lesson in acceptance of what happens, and then having faith that you'll be able to figure out how to react, right? An opposition puts planets into sort of perpetual active state. It's like hyperactivity, hyper fight or flight. They never let each other alone. So right now, your natal suns are in opposition to Uranus conjuncting Venus. So that's two energies molding themselves together because they're right on top of each other. They're in conjunction with each other. And it's going to be like that the whole week. So ultimately, what does it mean? So first, let's say, what does Venus-Uranus mean? Change and excitement with love and money, or both. Passing thrill rides. If you have, you'll want something new, something different, something exciting, especially in terms of finances, in terms of you could try things. This is the thing. If you have experienced boredom or stagnation and anything that you value or feeling value, you are going to legitimately be put in a situation where you don't have a choice but to rebel and do something different. It'll be high pressure for you guys this week because you'll just be like, I'm going to rip my eyes out if this boredom persists. And what that will do is it'll show you those things in your relationships and your finances that could relate to your career that are really bothering you because they haven't offered much in the form of motivation or progress. And so this is what you will be really rebelling against. Now, it doesn't mean that you'll make any permanent impact because it could just be passing, could just be fleeting. This could be the time when you have off-handled like trysts or like outside of your current relationship, or get into a relationship with somebody that you normally wouldn't be interested in because you're just so sick of the norm. It doesn't last long. It'll last this week, but it won't last much longer. And then you'll just be left with Uranus because your natal suns have been in opposition to Uranus. So you guys have been sideswiped by a lot of changes. You know, questioning why you felt so comfortable being so stagnant. But when Venus comes, it focuses that on your romance life and your money. So ultimately, watch how you spend your money this week because you may be so sick of feeling stuck that you decide to do something, or with your looks, you may feel so stagnant, right? You may do something radical. And it won't really fly past this week. Like, you'll love that rainbow mohawk that reminds you of when you were a kid in the 80s. You'll love it this week. And then it'll go back to, why did I do this? I have to shave my whole head. So just be very, very aware of your looks, how you value yourself, your romantic relationships. This could be one of the most exciting week-long romances of your life, but it doesn't mean it's going to last forever. And Scorpios do get stuck, especially emotionally. So this is where you have to be willing to let go and see if it can grow, because forcing it to is could be very detrimental since there is opposition. It could become very toxic if you try to make this last, this passing Venus energy last longer than it's supposed to. It could be very, very toxic for you. FYI. FYI, so be aware of what's coming. Could be great things, but don't expect the great things to last forever. Could be horrible things. They won't last forever either. But they will sideswipe you. They will change you. And this week, they will be focused on Venus runs shit. So that means your finances, your looks, your beauty, your value, your luxury, your even your sensuality. Not your sexuality necessarily, but your sensuality. That's where your Uranus is going to focus now. That's that focus because it's the conjunction. And those things will get really odd and unusual. And they can be fun. I'm telling you, let yourself have fun, but don't get hooked to it. Because Venus, it passes really quickly. And then you're just stuck with the differences. Right? Just an FYI. And then we have Scorpio 3s. Now, Scorpio 3s, your natal suns are square to Saturn, but trine to Neptune, which means you guys are in the most, I think, the most difficult situation of all Scorpios right now, simply because you're happy with the dreaminess, you're happy with the creativity, you have harmony with delusion and getting lost in things, and even having faith, that's good. Maybe focusing on your psyche or your spirituality. Being Scorpios, you'll be very drawn to the occult when your natal sun is trine to Neptune, but it can get delusional. And I'll tell you right now, getting lost in that stuff is what is causing problems. You are square to Saturn as well with reality. It's almost like saying that this week is going to be really hard for you to, not just this week, because Saturn is going to be square to your natal suns for the next year, and Neptune is going to stay trine. So it's you guys in particular that are having the most difficulty in discerning reality from fiction. So it's always good, especially in important matters, especially over the next year, to always ask for an external opinion that you can trust and to trust it. It's very, very important for the next year. And every once in a while in these videos, I'll remind you guys, but it's you guys in particular. You're square to Saturn, so there's challenges with reality, but you're trine to Neptune, so there's harmony with delusion and dreams. You could use this as a very creative time for you, right? And be getting a lot of pushback when it comes to the accepted norm, which Saturn absolutely represents. Well, that's more Taurus, but Saturn would uphold it, right? You'll be getting kickback. Like, no, that's not the rules. No, that's not the law. That's not how we do things. So if you just use it as a creative time and you take into consideration the pushback that you get from the establishment, take it into consideration, because squares need to be taken into consideration. Right? It could actually help you to create something even better if you learn from the pushback. If you ignore it and just escape into dreams, your life is going to get real shit real quick. FYI. Yeah, so now at this point, listen, leave your comments below. I would love to know how you're being impacted. Absolutely. I love to read you guys' comments. And I make a week ahead Scorpio tarot card reading. I make that video for you guys. I make that every single week. So I hope you guys will join me over there too. There's always an extended to that. So there's lots of information for you to have with this content. And I love you like crazy, guys. Thank you so much for making this channel such a success. All the views that I got with last year's Scorpio video, you guys are a blessing, and you always have been, and I love you like crazy. So please remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Definitely go ahead and subscribe. And because when you subscribe, you can also join in our astrology chit chats. I go on live once in a while during the week, and you have to be a subscriber to participate in the chats and to know when I go live. So, yeah, subscribe. I love you guys, and hopefully I will see you in the tarot reading. Bye, guys.